on. Okay.
Anybody else been here 24 hours and it feels like 5 months? Anybody?
Right here.
These two right here. Looks like it. Sweating a little bit, too.
We're going to wake everyone up with some breaking news.
Yeah, so everybody, this is my first time actually moderating a panel where we have breaking news, like hot off the press breaking news. As we mentioned, my name's Ken Lagana. I'm the CRO of Media.net. We are an omni-channel SSP. Recently launched our SSP about 5 years ago, but have our foundation in running the contextual ads marketplace for two of the largest search engines in the marketplace. So we basically take that fire hose of data, those search signals, incorporate that into our unique contextual engine and deliver performance for clients and advertisers. So that's my humble brag. I'll shut up now and kick it to these two. And these two are the reason we're here. So like I said, we have some hot off the press breaking news, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. So before we get into it, Jason, do you want to do a quick intro and also tell the audience a little bit more about Mission 44, for those that might not know, and how you got started? Just talk to me a little bit about that.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So my name is Jason. I'm the CEO of Mission 44, which is a charitable foundation launched by Sir Lewis Hamilton, the F1 driver, really focused on empowering young people.
Lewis Hamilton, for anybody that didn't hear.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton. The F1 driver really focused on empowering young people to succeed in education and also to get great jobs in STEM. So I've been leading the foundation for the last 4 years. I also work as Lewis's Director of Impact, so I sit on his management company as well. And it's been an exciting 4 years of growth. And yeah, I'm now getting the opportunity to enter into some really cool relationships and partnerships with people like Julie.
That's amazing. If we have time at the end of the panel, maybe we'll share some Lewis Hamilton stories. I don't know.
Okay, I'm nervous about that, but we can.
No, maybe we will, maybe we won't. Julie, tell everybody a little bit about your role and what's going on with Snapdragon for those that don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Ken. And thank you, everyone, for getting together to talk about culture and sport and social impact. The last panel had a very mature story and some examples to show. And what we're offering today is the beginning of this story, because literally our collaboration was just announced in the last hour. So we're here with that of bringing it all together and also full up with all kinds of ideas of where this path is going to take us. So by way of introduction, I'm Julie Yamamoto. I work in marketing at Qualcomm Technologies in San Diego. And my role is to lead campaigns as well as brand partnerships. And so I'm going to take a little moment for education as well, because I often get asked, what is Qualcomm? What is Snapdragon? What are the differences? What are those things in the world? Because you may have heard the names, but you might not know exactly what do we do out there. So Qualcomm is the parent company. Snapdragon is our consumer technology brand. Snapdragon is the processor that's in your premium Android phones, such as your Galaxy S24 Ultra, also in your laptop, in your car, in your Bose headphones, in your Ray-Ban AR glasses. And so hopefully by now you're thinking, oh, I must be using Snapdragon today, and I don't know about that. And that's exactly what we're working on through collaborations, through storytelling, really bringing that awareness and education to the marketplace.
That's awesome. Thank you for that introduction. Yeah, this is the first time in a long time Qualcomm has really taken more of a consumer approach to marketing, which is really interesting. So
for sure.
I'm excited to learn more about this partnership too. Can you guys talk a little bit about, what was that aha moment when, in conversations, how did that whole thing, how did it transpire? There's a lot of brands in the, out in the audience today. What can, tell me about that first conversation. How did that go?
Should I go first? Or do you want
Yeah, please.
So we met, I think, for the first time at the Miami Grand Prix. And Mission 44 tends to show up in about 5 to 6 races a year where we bring young people to the track so that they understand what the opportunities are in STEM and motorsport. They get the opportunity to meet with Lewis and then we do a bit of fundraising as well as we look to grow. So I was speaking at a session about our work, and Julie and Don, who's one of the CMO of Qualcomm, they were in the audience and approached me afterwards, and I think the aha moment was pretty much straight away, because one of the things that we always have to be careful about as a charity when we're entering into corporate partnerships is, are the values genuinely aligned? Is it about transforming young people's lives, or is it really about, we've got a very famous founder who is loved around the world? Is it more just about him? And we always have to test for that, because it's not about chasing partnerships or funding from big corporates. It's really about, we're looking to transform young people's lives. We're looking to create pathways into STEM. Do you want to join on that journey with us? Do we want to join with you on that journey? And right from the outset, what was clear in terms of the questions and the way in which we were getting to know each other is that values alignment was there. So that made it super exciting for me.
That's awesome. Julie, from your perspective, how did this thing kick off? Because I love to hear the two different perspectives on that first conversation.
Yeah, I definitely have this distinct aha moment. And Jason, it was when I heard you speak about Mission 44, and you were asked by someone in the audience, what would Mission 44 be if it had all the resources in the world, if money and resources were no object? And your answer was, Mission 44 would always be an enabler. And that was exactly the aha moment for me. I mean, the light bulbs went off, because we think of what we do in the world as enabling technology. And we're enabling people to have the experiences that they desire the most, to be the most productive, to pursue their creativity and their passions, as well as their professions. Also, Qualcomm has a tremendous track record in really supporting the STEM pipeline of job candidates and students. And so I want to echo the values alignment that was there right from the start, and it was even the aha moment.
So that whole enabler mentality just really struck the chord. Amazing. What if you could define what that specific problem was that you both were addressing through this partnership that maybe you couldn't have done on your own? Can you talk a little bit about that? Jason, I'll kick it to you first.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the challenges that we're seeing in the UK, which is where the charity started, are, I think, challenges that you see facing young people around the world, which is that for too many young people from underserved communities, their pathways into great jobs in STEM are either non-existent or very narrow. So you look at, in the UK, 14% of people working in STEM jobs are from ethnic minority backgrounds, only 17% are women, and that's far too low. So for us, we're wanting to get to the root causes of that, and that includes, why is it that too many young people from particular backgrounds or communities don't feel as though STEM is for them? Why is it that they don't always get the grades or achieve the levels that they should be in order to be able to access those jobs? And then, ultimately, how do we ensure that they've got the technology, the networks, the support to then be able to, if they've got the aspirations and they've got the grades, be able to get those jobs? And no one organization can solve that on their own. No government can solve that on their own. So when we think about it as Mission 44, our ability to work with this global technology leader in helping students to achieve those grades, to raise their aspirations, and the storytelling that we can do with Snapdragon, and then the access point. So, one of the key parts of this partnership are technology grants. So our ability to actually give young people the tech that they need in order to be able to access these opportunities too, that will be transformative for so many young people, not just in the UK, but as our partnership grows around the world. So we know, as a relatively young charity, we can't do that on our own. We need brilliant organizations who care about the same things to work with them and make change happen. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Julie?
I'll just add a little bit of a marketing spin onto that message, because that is also involved in things that we couldn't do alone, but better together. And so much of the path that we're on is about broadening the access to communities, not just Mission 44's community alone, but also involving our Snapdragon insiders and folks who are trusted content creators and storytellers to our brand, really getting them passionate about these shared values and what the organization is doing in the world, the difference that it's making. And that all leads to storytelling. As marketers, I think that's where we need to always spend the most time. We know we're hardwired to remember stories. That's how we're memorable. That's how people perceive our brands, how they talk about our brands to others and their communities. And so as we're full up with ideas coming to you in this moment of announcing our collaboration, really storytelling is that pathway that we're focused on.
I love that.
And Mission 44 will, over a period of years, receive the benefit of that storytelling. And those are going to be Mission 44 stories.
I love that.
Can I just
Jason,
jump on that for a second?
Please.
So when we think at Mission 44 about impact, stories are right at the heart of how we think about it, right? Because we give grants to nonprofits to help them grow. We do a lot of research. We've been involved in some policy influencing with Lewis and the Prime Minister in the UK recently. What ultimately drives change, in our view, it's also the stories that young people tell themselves about what their futures are, what they should be, how empowered they feel, the extent to which employers are telling them their own stories about their responsibility to those young people. Like, stories are so critical to driving change. And I guess my challenge to people in this room, to the marketers in this room, is like, how are you using your influence and your networks to tell stories that aren't just about, you know, growing your organization, but at a time of real social and economic and environmental challenge, how are you telling stories that are also going to make the world a better place? And that's what's so exciting about this partnership, is our ability to tell stories that we hope will motivate, influence, challenge people to think differently and do differently as a result.
I love that. I mean, when you think about it at the end of the day, I mean, that's really what we do as marketers, right? We are all about storytelling, and those that do it the best are the ones that generally win the game. So that's awesome. Julie, when you think about media tactics and just activations, I may be putting the cart before the horse here, but is there anything that you're excited about, or anything specific that you want to talk to us about? And it may be too early. This was sort of a curveball question that I just threw at you, so I apologize in advance. But is there anything that you want to talk about there?
Yeah, I think
That you can talk about there?
one of the aspects that I'm very interested in is telling the stories of students who are enabled by Mission 44. And the philosophy of the storytelling that we're going after, as I said before, these are Mission 44 stories of enablement. And technology is present as an enabler within that story, right? And to me, that's very authentic, and that's a great opportunity for both organizations. So I think it's the stories of students that we are now learning about, examining, looking at collaboratively what is the best way into that. And then the second aspect is working with creators who are sharing the same values and very interested in telling these stories of encouraging students in the STEM opportunities specifically.
And maybe even incorporating students into that creative. I mean, there's so much you could do with this.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm excited really excited for you
Yes.
both. Where do you see, if you had a crystal ball and you could look at the future, where do you see the biggest potential for either unexpected outcomes or maybe an innovation or two? How do you think about that? Use your crystal ball.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, look, when you look at some of the environmental challenges that we face, and certainly in terms of how technology is transforming the world of work and our economies, ultimately ensuring that young people from black and brown communities, you know, more girls, more young people from low-income households are at the forefront of those changes and have access to those types of jobs is absolutely critical. So there are, in terms of tackling the environmental crisis, engineering is going to be right at the heart of that. And so our job is to make sure, for example, that those engineering jobs, the civil engineers, mechanical engineers, that young people from diverse communities and backgrounds are getting access to those roles. And I think there'll be a huge amount of innovation there. I also think, just very quickly, one of our ways of driving change, as I said earlier, is working through non-profits. So we are an enabler. We find organizations who are working at the coalface, working with these young people in their communities to drive change. There's a huge amount of innovation that's coming from those non-profits about how they work with young people, inspire young people, thinking about the mental health of those young people, as well as technological support, as well as then how to teach them in new and innovative ways. How do you use AI? So for us, our job is how do we act as an enabler for those non-profits to drive innovation and how they make change.
It's almost like an incubator to some extent, right?
Yeah,
is that something that you're considering? It sounds like it.
Yeah, we don't just give grants to establish non-profits. We try and find organizations that are doing great work but need support to scale. And so, we'll give them a grant, but, with Snapdragon support, we'll also help them to access technology as well. We'll use our platforms to showcase their work. So we're helping them to grow. That has always been, going right to our founder, the most important thing, right? That it's actually not about Mission 44. It's not about us trumpeting our work or making it about the organization. It's how are we acting as an enabler, a foundation for other organizations who are working directly with young people to then increase their impact too. So, yeah, incubation is very much about how we think about impact.
And did you hear that word again, enabler? That's why it clearly just makes so much sense, and I understand why you approached Jason as soon as he got off stage. Julie, for you, when you think about innovation in this partnership, where are you going to take this? How are you thinking about that? How's your team thinking about that?
Yeah, I'd like to offer the audience a different spin on innovation. Usually when that word is bandied about, especially in tech circles, we think about engineering specifically, or the technology, the hardware, the software itself. I want to suggest to you that the innovation can be in the values, in the intangibles, and that's worth so much. One of the things that represents innovation for me in this collaboration is the time that we took at the beginning to establish our shared values, to document those, and to really have those as a foundation at the start. And so I encourage you all, any negotiation that you're in, any persuasion, any team building that you're doing, it is so well worthwhile to take that moment and establish the shared values at the beginning, because that's just going to pay off, and that's going to ultimately lead to the innovation that you're looking for coming out of that dialogue.
Amazing. So we're sort of at the end here, but look, there's brands here and there's brands in and around this conversation, and this whole week. What advice would you folks give to the brand marketers or the agencies, or even to other nonprofits, other folks in your space, Jason, who maybe are taking a little bit of an unconventional approach to this partnership and what you're looking to build together? What can you guys impart to these folks in the audience?
I would say to brand marketers, really to challenge yourselves about the extent to which you are using your platforms, your networks, to really zone in on some of the challenges that we face nationally, internationally, and the extent to which then those challenges are influencing the types of stories that you tell and the types of people that you showcase. We have always thought it's really important that young people's voices should be cut across all of our communications, because again, in terms of being an enabler or an empowerer, how we provide them the platform to say this is what needs to change is critical. And I referred to an event that we did. Lewis and a bunch of our partners went into number 10 Downing Street 2 weeks ago, and the most important aspect of that event to me was not so much that Lewis was there, but it was that there was a whole bunch of young people there. And so I'm so excited about this partnership because, as Julie was saying, I think one of the things that we're going to be able to do is amplify the voices of young people who have benefited from the partnership, but also not just talk about how they've benefited, but enable them to also then call for change, for them to say, this is what needs to happen. And I think any brand marketer who can do that in whatever way possible to give a platform to young people to say, this is what we want the world to look like, and this is how you can help us, I think is exciting and key.
That's really inspiring. And as you think about, I mean, this is a global opportunity, right? I mean, it's not just one market, it's not just one country, it's a global opportunity, right, for both of you.
Absolutely, and we're very lucky in that our founder, his reach and the amount of love and support for him creates opportunities then for Mission 44.
That's certainly helpful.
Yeah, to tell our story to reach more audiences. So yeah, we're starting in the UK and the US and Brazil and Italy. Over time, I think we'll expand. Although my team, I think, will probably be scared to hear that. And so we want to reach as many young people around the world who are facing similar difficulties to say to them, look, you can do it too. And there are organizations like Mission 44 and Snapdragon who will stand beside you to help you do it.
That's amazing. And Julie, what do you think? I mean, just in terms of what's your parting advice to brands when they're maybe considering something a little bit unconventional? And how do you challenge the norms?
Yeah, I go back to the values. My number one is always establish those shared values. And then to add another take on what Jason just shared, my advice is pass the mic. Always be thinking about what other voices can you bring forward that are going to be super impactful with your audience. There's a lot of power in passing the mic.
I love that. Well, look, I think we're going to leave it there. I want to thank you both for releasing this monumental opportunity right here on stage, and more to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right, gang. Thank you.